Is someone speaking?
Hey, Amy, this is
I'm not-
Emma online. We can't hear anything.
Can you hear now?
Yep.
Can you hear now, Emma?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. You didn't miss much. Thank you, though. So RAB members have an opportunity to ask questions at the end of each presentation. We ask you to introduce yourselves so folks online know who is speaking, and so we can capture that in our meeting summary. I say please observe a 2-minute rule. You guys all know that I don't time you. It's just to make sure that we get through everybody's questions and everybody has a chance to ask questions. For folks from the public, and I'm happy to see a bunch of folks here, we ask you to hold your questions to the end of the meeting. So jot them down, or hopefully you have a good memory. We'll have time at the end of the meeting to address questions from the public. And for anybody online, you can type your questions into the chat feature. So this part is just for the folks online. Please turn your cameras off to save bandwidth and mute yourself. I think that Mary Ann Babinski is online, so that's a RAB member. So Mary Ann, raise your hand to ask questions and speak during the RAB member part of the questions. Again, for those from the public online, if you have questions, please type them into chat. Next slide. And do we have anybody on the phone? All right, I'm gonna skip that slide. Nobody else on the phone on Teams. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to welcome introductions. We have Colonel St. Jean here tonight, subbing in for Colonel Holosky. Hey, welcome.
Okay, yeah.
No,
I thought we were gonna go in order, but I apologize. So I am Colonel Andrew St. Jean. I'm the Deputy Commander at the 104th Fighter Wing. So unfortunately, Colonel Holosky couldn't make it this evening, so I am here in his stead. But on behalf of Colonel Holosky, thanks everybody for your continued participation in the RAB. I'd had an opportunity to be here several other times to represent the 104th Fighter Wing, and during all those interactions, I found all the dialogue to be, open, informative, and respectful. And I look forward to continuing that collaboration. Thank you.
Great, thanks. And Kathy Hillman is Community Co-Chair.
I would just like to welcome everybody, all of our guests and all of our members that are here. I think it's really important that we do get a variety of people to be able to speak and to be able to share their experiences. And so I thank everybody for coming today.
Great, thanks, Kathy. So in terms of introductions, I'm not going to read through everything on here. This is the Air National Guard team, the community RAB members. And I do want to introduce Tom Keefe, right?
Yeah.
From the Mass DEP. And he'll be, my understanding is you'll be taking over Chris's role on the RAB, correct? Okay,
Yeah,
if you want to say anything more, you're welcome to.
So yeah, we're really, this is Caprice from Mass DEP, Caprice Shaw. We are so happy and pleased to announce that Tom's going to be our point of contact for Department of Defense sites. However, while Tom is transitioning into his new role, I'll be also helping out too. So don't feel like you can't reach out to me. I'm still going to be a part as well. And just to let you know, Tom isn't new to us at DEP. He's actually has several years in our audit section, and he's our senior auditor. And then I'll let Tom give a couple words if you want about your background. But we're really happy to have him join this effort.
I graduated from Norwich University in 1988. My name is Tom Keefe with Mass DEP. I graduated from Norwich University. For the people online, I have an outdoor voice. In 1988, I did a hitch in the Army. I served overseas in the early 90s, and then I got out and put my degree to work. I have 6 years in the private sector doing waste site cleanup work, and I have a little over 25 years with Mass DEP as an auditor doing. We like to think of ourselves as a referee or an umpire. We work for the league. We are not your opponent. We work for the league. You can't have a fair game without us.
Can you spell your last name?
Yes, ma'am. K-E-E-F-E.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
And Amy, you'll probably be able to share contact information too.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll put that in as an action item. I'm saying that out loud, so when we do the minutes, they'll come through as an action item. Okay, next slide. And this is the project team. We have had a little bit of change at the Army Corps of Engineers. We have a different project chemist. And these are some of your many other contractors on the project, so I'm not going to go through everybody. And we'll do some quick RAB business. There's not too much to cover, I don't think. Go ahead. All right, on the TAP grant. Is this Robert or Colonel?
Good evening, this is Sarah Sinclair with the 104. Basically just going over the TAP grants. I want to say thank you for everybody on TAP grant number 2 for all your input. But at this point, we're going to have it, call it final for what we have. Based on, I had the contracting officer go through, do an independent review. Based on what we had in the contract and what they provided, they met the requirements. And I think that what we did, we actually learned from that, and we've been able to incorporate some of those into what we're going to do for the TAP grant number 3, asking the specific questions so we can make sure we get what we're looking for versus like not having a very vague statement. So with that, we got TAP grant number 3 that was approved for the funding. That is with the contracting office right now, and they're making the determination on what way they're going to go with the contract itself. Do we have any questions on that portion?
How much?
Yes. How much?
How much money did we get? For the TAP grant?
Well, no matter what, the TAP grant, each grant is capped at 25, but we got just under 25,000. Sorry,
Under
25,000, but we got just under 25,000.
125,000, thank you. I'm all about the money.
I try not to memorize numbers. I have way too many numbers in my head.
For us, it matters.
No, it does. I just have too many that I will mess it up and get something dyslexic and backwards. So, any questions on the TAP grants?
Okay, moving on. Okay, RAB business. We are not going to approve meeting summaries because you don't have one in front of you to approve, and that is my fault. The January meeting summary, when I thought I had sent it to you and I have not. The April meeting summary is currently with Guard, and we'll get those both out to you early next week. This is entirely on me. I've had a lot of issues going on this spring. Those are past. I apologize, and we are taking some steps to make sure this doesn't happen going forward. So this is my fault, but you'll have those for review early next week. And we can do comments on them online if you want to. If you have comments, we can adjudicate it that way. If that, and according to these RAB, this is RAB, we do put the draft online. So the draft will be available to folks, if that's okay with you.
Are the recordings up?
I'll double check. I'll double check on that. So upcoming meetings, as you know, are usually the 4th Thursday of every month, every 3 months, sorry, January, April, July, and October. We make some adjustments when needed, usually just to January, moving that one back a week because of the holidays. So these are the dates of the upcoming RAB meetings. And with that, Emma is online to present on the community involvement plan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emma Kossab, the project manager over at Dawson for the Community Engagement Support Contract. So giving you an update on this iteration of the Barnes ANGB Community Involvement Plan. So this update was finalized after comments were addressed on July 1st. And as of today, it actually has been uploaded to the AR, so it is available to the public right now. So I just wanted to give you kind of like a quick recap of the CIP and go over interview methodology. So virtual interviews were conducted using a SurveyMonkey, and that happened in several ways from December 20th of last year through February 25th. So that first approach was reaching out to 39 local community contacts via email to respond to the survey. And then the second portion of that approach was that RAB members were encouraged to participate and share the survey at the January RAB meetings. That was kind of the middle marker of that outreach effort. And then finally, the base posted and reposted to the 104th Fighter Wing Facebook page twice toward the beginning of February and toward the end of February. And that outreach was shared to over 18,000 followers. And as a result of that outreach, 13 responses were collected. So if we can go to the next slide, give you some more background on that. So some of the questions, just demographic background. We did receive some input from folks who had either themselves or a family member worked at Barnes. And some quick stats on that. The earliest that was reported was from 1968, and the most recent is a couple of folks who still work there. And there's also a picture of some stats from how long folks live and work in the area. Most were 20 or more years or 30 or more years. Go to the next slide, please. Since it's the community involvement plan update, a really important part of that is understanding what was reported from people for preferences for outreach and how often and how. So some of those most popular ways that were shown from the interviews were via email, social media, public notices, website updates. And then the preference based on that indicated sharing environmental restoration program updates for Barnes on a quarterly basis, which does align with the RAB meeting frequency. So go to the next. And finally, we did ask some questions that were specific to the RAB to try and get input from the community, take a pulse of whether there's awareness and involvement. And most indicated that they were not aware of the RAB and had not yet attended a meeting. We also provided questions to dictate potentially how to improve RAB meetings. So no comments have been received at this time. And there was also a question to learn more about the ERP. Sorry, you can go back. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. You can go to the next slide. That was covering everything from that one. And this is also from the community involvement plan to show that of those who responded to the survey, most did indicate they were very interested in all three topics: health and safety, economic impacts, and environmental impacts that have to do with the environmental restoration program at Barnes. So I thought that was interesting to share. Next slide, please. And then finally, some ongoing and anticipated community involvement type activities include, which this has already been done, establishing points of contact, public affairs officer, Jay Hewitt, and then restoration program manager is Robert Lewis. As indicated by the upload of the CIP, maintaining the AR is active. Distributing fact sheets will happen on an as-needed basis, and there's a mailing list being maintained now with interested groups, and there's also the option to provide either direct mail address or email address to be included on updates. So that will be updated based on responses to the interviews. Additionally, any public notices to local newspapers with public meeting information, any public comment information will be shared as applicable. And lastly, participating in RAB meetings on a regular basis. Next slide, please. And then upcoming activities I thought would be important to note. So the community involvement plan is considered to be a live document, so it does go through regular updates. The next update being expected in 2027, so 2 years from now. And just in case you know somebody or you have a recommendation for something that should be considered to be included either as a topic or an outreach method for future updates, I did include this Survey Monkey here, which you can share and please use within the RAB, outside the RAB, for ideas for upcoming topics and outreach methods. So I wanted to share that there, and that's active now. So since you have the link, you should be able to fill it out anytime. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Okay, so RAB member discussion on any of those topics. Go ahead, Chris.
Hi, everyone. It's Chris Clark. Emma, thank you so much for the presentation. I know I had submitted some comments about this, and I was hoping you could address more about it in this meeting tonight. Because I was really surprised that there was only 13 people that responded to the survey. So I was wondering if you could speak to that and how that might. Do you believe that that is a sufficient amount of people to interview to develop a community involvement plan? So maybe you could talk a little bit about why this number was chosen or the time period that was chosen, explain why there's only 13 people in the survey?
Yeah, so it is an optional survey, and the point is that it's supposed to take a pulse of the community, not necessarily serve as a statistically significant method. So essentially, we have a specific time frame as a part of our contract in order to execute the updates, and that aligned with the time period that Barnes was done in. And as part of that, primarily the scope is to execute it virtually. That doesn't mean that's necessarily the only method that could be used going forward potentially, but that's why we used a mailing list to reach out to those local community contacts, in addition to reach out to the RAB and via social media. And since it is an optional survey and we're restricted with certain time constraints in order to develop the CIP, I think that's why we potentially saw 13. I can also add, though, that I looked into previous outreach in the last CIP update for Barnes, which was in 2020, and there were only 7 respondents to that, and it was using a mail approach. So maybe that gives you a little bit more context.
Thank you, Emma.
Kristen?
I'm pulling off the mask for this.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? I had a hard time hearing.
She's getting
I
started.
do not speak without a mask, and I am doing so that I am not misunderstood. The failure here was the way the community was approached. The failure here was the way the RAB was approached. And if you got double of what you got last time, it was failure both times. This community searches for a way to get involved and speak up. And this, when you showed up in January, you gave us a job without introducing yourselves any time before January. We walked into January not knowing you from Adam or that a CIP was coming up. And our entire beginning of the meeting got railroaded by your job, which had never been introduced to us. And we are not on a payroll here. Okay, so you completely approached us wrong. And if you approach other communities this way, you're going to have an exact kind of problem. You need to approach us before you want us to do the job. You need to approach us and make a relationship and say, hey, we want to know. I'm the one who told you you didn't even Google the right information for the media contacts. You could have done that from anywhere without talking to any of us. It is frustrating to receive a report about us that doesn't include us or the basic search engines that would have given you the right information. This was a bad approach. It was. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen, thank you for your comments. So this particular community involvement plan is final, it's my understanding, but she has opened up the SurveyMonkey, and so for recommendations on how to do things differently when this is updated in 2 years, we can keep it. Emma, that's going to stay open?
Yes, that can stay open.
Okay, so she'll keep that open. Well, most community involvement plans get updated every 5 years. So just so you know, at other Department of Defense facilities, Air National Guard is doing it in 2 years. And community outreach that is done here is not, it doesn't have to be in the plan in order to do it, okay? So it has to be approved and paid for, but it doesn't mean if it's not in the plan, you can't do something. So I want to make that clear too. So it's not any ideas that you have for ways that something there should be some outreach. It's not a missed vote for 2 years. I appreciate that your comments and that you're frustrated with how this went about. I understand that. And so I think Emma's got this open to collect comments for the next 2 years and suggestions that are captured in the meeting summaries about like, hey, we should reach out to these folks or do things this way. I know that, in the next round of updating the community involvement plan, they can also look back at the meeting summaries to capture some of those ideas as well.
Is there any way to redo? So we could
It's been accepted as final.
It's
I
final.
believe.
2 years.
Accepted it, it's fine.
I did.
You did,
Yes,
but you have the ability to reopen it.
We did send in
It's fine.
correction. Kathleen, we sent in correction. So they
Yeah,
did, you know, we did send in correction.
I know.
Amy.
Yeah.
Mary O'Connell, well, can you just give us a little detail of exactly the process for community outreach? Who, how, where, when, if you could talk about that.
Sure.
Emma,
Yeah.
can you address that?
Yes, I can speak to that. So the outreach can happen multiple ways. And the ways that were identified this time were via email, reaching out to the RAB, and via social media. But for instance, for email, we typically look for all kinds of different local contacts in the community, whether it's a nonprofit, school administrators, local government, local businesses, environmental organizations, all kinds. So that's what went into the local community contacts for the email outreach. And then I mentioned that the social media reach has 18,000 followers, not to mention opportunities for shares, comments, etc., that may not be in that following. Does that help answer your question?
Not really, because, other than through this group, I never saw this anywhere. I never saw it in any local publications. I mean, would you consider that you were successful? I mean, there's gotta be a better way, no?
I am very open to recommendations. If you think there is a better way to reach the community, I would love to hear it.
Well, it's not, you're the expert. I'm not an expert in this, but I know what I know. I live in this community and I never heard one single thing.
Let me provide some context because I also write community involvement plans. For Navy bases, for example. The processes that she went through, there's an EPA guidance document on how to do these things. So the process that she went through for obtaining outreach and stuff is all pretty standard. Doing the social media posts is actually a step beyond what is normally done. EPA guidance is to try to get about 20 input from about 20 people. I have published CIPs where we've heard from 7 people, so we try to get at least 20. I've had community involvement plans where we hear from 120. Rarely anything above that. So you're not looking for like 10% of the local population or statistically significant numbers like that. So if that just helps you from a context point of view, I'm not saying that there aren't improvements that can be made the next time,
Well, clearly.
but I want to give you some context.
Yeah, clearly improvements. Again, I asked this question. Do you feel you in your job, you were successful?
I would say that kind of like Amy said, hello, sorry.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think it's quite fair to ask a contractor if they think they're successful or not in front of their client, where they're gonna say no.
I was satisfied with the effort that they put forth, and we didn't get the responses. We always want more responses, but I think they did a good job trying to reach the public.
I think it's a failure, and that's all.
That's understandable. I mean, that's fine.
It's a failure.
The 13 people are biased because they have vested interest and they're looking for this.
It was,
Not the general public.
okay, but it wasn't, I guess, presenting to the community.
Emma, we have a little feedback on your end.
Oh, okay, I can mute.
Don is correct. Okay, it was a biased sample, right? But even
How
if,
is it by, I mean,
even if all we had to do was get even a biased sample, right? They work in the community and technically that counts, okay? We can't hold up the EPA as being successful at community engagement. We have already trounced them. Don't feel like we're picking on the DOD, number one. Number two, when we received that CIP, the basic fundamental information about the newspaper, the TV studios, wasn't even remotely correct. It was like 20 years out of date. We corrected it. And for that reason, what is on the record is now correct. That was not successful. So while we accept that this is done, what I say is it is only correct because we stepped in, number one. And number two, if you want us to engage as a community, do not come at us to do your work. Engage us as colleagues, and we will get you hundreds of responses like we did for the ATSDR. But when you come at us and give us a job you didn't talk to us about, we didn't ask for, and pay someone else, not us, you're gonna get 13 responses of people who are
Okay.
biased and vested. If you want us, you need to engage us.
Okay, I'm gonna move this forward. because-
I want to make one last comment. I find it offensive to have a comment. It's unfair to ask that question. I mean, this is the forum.
You can ask the question, but I didn't want to put him on the spot to
Well, I
answer.
mean, hey, we're all grown-ups here, you know.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna move on because this document is final. I think we've heard input on how to do it differently next 2 years from now, as we move forward, okay?
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
If people do submit information to that survey, will somebody compile it again?
Yeah, Emma has owns that survey, right, Emma?
Yes,
So,
yep,
so
we do.
people, okay.
Yep, it lives in a database that I have access to.
And she was, and that's if they're doing the next community involvement plan, if it's somebody else, she would pass that information on. So ultimately, that database belongs to the Air National Guard because she's hired by the Air National Guard.
So us sending it up to more people isn't gonna really help. And it's gonna change.
Oh, we can't.
This is not the same this is not the same survey. This is for input for next time, for 2 years from
So
now.
it'd be of us to have a heads up that it's coming, so we can notify the community, because we know who the community are and we know who we're notified. So they have to let us know ahead of time and we'll get the word out and we'll get probably more than 13 responses.
Why are we keeping it open then?
This is a new survey.
Right.
This is not the existing survey. This is a new survey, correct, Emma? To collect input on how to do things next, or ideas for community outreach for next time, right?
Yes, ideas for input and improvements for next time.
Okay. Moving along to the Barnes non-AFFF due diligence report or project.
All right, this is Robert Lewis with the Air National Guard. We are doing the due diligence. It's been across the board for the Air National Guard of non-AFFF. So, right now we're doing the PFAS, RI investigation, all that stuff deals with AFFF. And Craig's gonna come on in a minute to tell you more in depth, but now we're kind of looking at other products or other, kind of activities that might have involved PFAS at the installation and across the board. And doing like a preliminary report just to see kind of what's out there. And I'm going to introduce you to Craig Johnson with EA, and he can tell you more in depth about what this process looked like.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Craig Johnson here with EA Engineering. Just a little bit about our team. We were hired by the Corps of Engineers who, as Robert said, supports the Air National Guard. And we're doing this at 130 plus bases throughout the U.S. So the objective of this is to focus on, as mentioned earlier, the non-AFFF sources of PFAS. So it was to determine whether there were sources potentially there, stored, handled, or used, or possibly released. And if so, if further investigation is warranted at each building and or shop area. So our task, again, the due diligence is synonymous with the preliminary assessment. It includes a historical records review. Obviously, the environment baseline survey is a big part of that. Reviewing the admin record, interviewing folks who are there, and then preparing a due diligence report for each installation. Next slide, please. So our research summary, like I mentioned, we searched the admin record digitally. There's at the time 658 documents there, reviewed a lot of other documents that might have been provided to us. We found 11 of those were primary documents that were maybe more current or had more information on that. And overall, There were 113 shops and buildings within the barn's footprint that we assessed. Interviewed Robert about some historical activities. We have very good knowledge of historical activities based on those historical documents that we had, some GIS files, and then obviously our interview with Robert. And then we had 5 shop that will be recommended for further evaluation in that due diligence report. Again, this is for non-AFFF PFAS sources. So that draft report was submitted earlier this year. We anticipate the draft final being available in August and anticipate the final report sometime in late 2025. With that, with the last slide there, if anybody has any information about any activities historically related to non-AFFF PFAS, I can certainly reach out to Robert. Next slide, please.
Okay. Questions on this presentation? Chris Clark's hand went up first.
Hi, Chris. Thanks so much for the information. Really excited to hear what the results of this will be. I was curious, when you say PFAS, which PFAS do you mean?
Well, the whole class of compounds. So really right now at this stage, this preliminary stage, we're looking at non-AFFF sources of PFAS. So like degreasers versus the aqueous foam that you're kind of used to with the AFFF side of that.
Great. I think I'm maybe more asking like specifically, is it going to be under a certain regulatory class, or are you looking at the entire family of all 12,000 PFAS compounds?
Right now, in this stage, it's moving the entire class of compounds. Obviously, there's not a lot of information at this stage of exactly what compounds they did use. So probably in the SI stage is when they probably determine that. But we're moving it forward. If we have a suspect PFAS in general was used in that building or shop, and then there may have been a release associated with that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Chris?
Not exactly, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I'm familiar with obviously the list of PFAS compounds being regulated and being looked at has been changing and will change. In this stage of our assessment, we don't get to that level. Because a lot of these chemicals, the content really is unknown. So from a conservative standpoint, we're moving things forward or recommending that if they used a typical product that would have PFAS, again, at this stage, we don't have a lot of safety data sheets to tell us what the content of those chemicals are. So we're kind of taking a conservative approach to say this particular cleaning or plating material typically uses PFAS. So we'd like to kind of recommend it moves forward.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense. I think I'm curious just because how you define PFAS will also guide your records review. And so like if there are certain products that aren't defined under, if it just has PFOA and you're only looking for products that says they have PFAS in them, but it's just PFOA, you're missing many other products that maybe don't have PFOA and have many of the other types in there. So that's why I'm just asking about the specifics, just so I'm aware of how you're saying it's conservative, so I'll believe you, but I was just curious, we speak a language where we need to have exact words about what we're using. And PFAS is such a broad word. So that's just what I was looking for some clarification. So thank you.
Yeah, so we're using some pretty well documented guidance out there, the Gaines report, and those that identify, what might have it in it, and so that's, again, at this stage, we don't know. So we're assuming that, again, from this report, this process, defoamers, if we would know fumitrol, obviously that'd move forward, photochemicals, defoamers, those, we don't know exactly what's in them, but we're moving those forward because we suspect there's going to be PFAS, PFOA, PFAS, all that potentially there.
Great. Thanks for looking into this.
You bet.
Okay. Kristen.
Yeah, so, also thank you for looking into this. I've kind of been barking up that tree a little while now. Especially because I know that there was plating, and shops. I'm wondering whether or not the, area at the end of the cross side runway was included. There's a historical dumping ground at the end of that runway. And that is right in the way of Pond Brook, which goes to the wells. And so I'm wondering whether that part, it's right on the other side, right? Because DEP has records on it. So I'm wondering if that it was shown as a circular dumping ground in a map that I saw. I don't know that it's a real circle. But, there was this area at the end of the runway that used to get stuff. And I'm wondering whether or not that is included or if it was excluded because it's on the other side of the chain link fence.
Robert, I guess you kind of know our, probably the shape file that we have, and I can look at that. I don't have that off the top of my head. I can look at that to determine if that area, and could you repeat that, that's right off the runway, right?
Yeah, it's right out, it's the short runway that goes left and right, and I don't know the name of it, because I don't see the military spot.
We don't know, but I'm trying to. I'm trying to left, east, and west.
Yeah, the,
One or eight.
Hold on. We're gonna move, I'm gonna find,
Eight
what,
outside the fence.
what slide number? Everybody go through their handouts. Which slide
what
number?
slide number is it?
They're the ones.
They're not pulled out.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
direction of surface water.
At the end of the runway,
Robert, but I
there's,
believe that's what she's referring to.
no, not the AOC, it's a
Oh.
separate,
Not, okay.
hang on, let me see if I can find it on.
I'm not sure.
She's not talking about A triple F. I don't have that.
No, I'm talking about a historical
Yeah.
dumping ground for waste, everything.
I'm not,
Currently has-
I'm not sure any of our current maps are pulled out far enough
She needs a separate.
in this,
She's.
in today's presentation.
Okay. You discuss amongst yourselves, I'll get there. I know what I'm talking about, I'll pull up the state map and show you in a minute.
Just from the sound of it, it does sound like a no. I would say, okay.
It was kind of where I'm thinking, I don't think it's gonna be part of it. But I would.
Alright, so if I look up, what is it on the mapper, like landfill? Right, is it landfill?
That doing solid waste.
Yeah, like, is it solid waste? Yes, see, a circular dumping ground at the end of the runway, I'm not stupid.
No, we believe you.
Yeah.
Right, so it's, what's that runway? The one at the top that goes by the hush house.
Okay, what I'm gonna ask, because obviously you're not hooked into the thing, what I'm gonna ask is you take a screenshot or something and send that.
I'll tell you what it is.
No, but I wanna make sure that it gets to,
This.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So you're talking,
I'm talking about that circular area. What is the end of that?
oh, the Sierra taxiway.
There, see?
Yeah.
But it's
Okay.
really in the
Robert?
Sierra.
okay,
Robert?
Craig?
Yeah, hey.
I'd like to get this map to Robert and Craig.
Yep.
Can't hear.
Okay, hold on, we need to have one conversation. Because the folks online aren't seeing the map, Craig's not seeing the map. Can we get this map? So it's the link to it or a screenshot or whatever you want to do, send that to Robert to forward to Craig.
Okay.
Is that appropriate?
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, so there's a figure in our report that shows the outline of our investigation. I can put that in the chat. Are you good with that
Yeah,
work?
and then you can pull that up, yes.
Yep. All right, I just sent it.
Okay. There you go, pull it up.
Yeah.
Just like.
Just show, there you go.
Sorry.
That's okay, all right. It should be coming on the screen for everybody to see now.
Okay, so it is on the outer edge. Right, yeah, off the end of that. Where your cursor just was a second ago. Right here? Yep, at that bottom right-hand corner.
That's the area of concern 8, that's part of the remedial investigation. So,
Yeah.
It's the outside.
Is that what, yeah, if it's the bottom right?
South, it's the south
No,
east
right
corner, right there.
Going to where she gets it.
Yeah.
See the water? That's the area, that's the dumping ground.
Yeah.
Right, so the,
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
So point to where you think that is on,
That's the same one.
right.
where do you think that is on the screen?
Here.
Okay.
Oh, no.
That's it. Okay, that's it.
So if it's within the fence line, it's AOC.
But it's outside the fence line.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the runway.
But that
Okay.
is AFC.
Okay, we need to have one conversation. I know, but
They gotta finish.
This is Mike Colbert from the Corps. I have the Mass Mapper open and I'm on Teams. I think it's the Barnes Municipal Airport landfill.
That's what it's called.
okay, what is the follow-up here, Robert?
If it's,
Do we want to pull it up now? Do we want to look into this further and get back to folks? What do you want to do as the?
I can look into that and I'll get back to Robert on that.
yeah, I think we're talking about an area of
It's
AFC.
AOC, I believe.
I think that's already part of our RI investigation.
Right, and as soon as he gets back to Robert, Robert will get back to the RAB.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And the only reason I say let's have one conversation is, well, it's actually two reasons. One is that the folks online who are doing the report can't hear what's going on when everyone's talking at once. And two is we can't do a meeting summary that involves the conversation when there's multiple conversations. So that's the only reason. And I know that people were discussing this, but I just wanted to bring together what we're doing with this
So most
conversation.
people will stop talking.
Yeah, so, okay. Other questions for Craig? Anything else? Okay, yes, go ahead. Comment from Caprice.
Michelle with Mass DEP. So it sounds like you're looking at other non-AFFF sources. How does this correlate with the ongoing investigation? Is this its own investigation, or when you start doing, when you move into the next phase for the AFFF investigation, and let's say you get the information from this due diligence, would you be folding that into this current investigation, or will they be two different separate investigations?
Okay, this is Robert again. Yeah, so it's a separate investigation, but we're conducting a base-wide RI. So it's gonna be captured in that anyways. We start collecting samples, we start seeing different signatures or whatever that's non-AFFF, then that's gonna show up in the investigation that we're doing now. But this technically is its own investigation.
So it's its own investigation,
At
but
this
as you start with an AFFF investigation, sounds like you'll be in tandem and with whatever information's coming in, you'll add it to the current investigation. Is that correct?
I mean, whatever we collect in our samples is just what we're collecting the data. I mean, we're not necessarily gonna look for things in this, because this is just that, like I said, it's at the preliminary assessment. We may have said, oh, this needs to move forward, but in the real sense, there's nothing there to begin with. So this is just kind of just, hey, what's out there? Let's take a look and see what we have. But since we're doing a base-wide RI, that data is going to be collected when we put our wells in and sample.
The list of 40 PFAS compounds.
What's that?
The list of 40 PFAS compounds.
Yeah.
You're not just looking at PFOA, you're gonna have a list of the 40. The
Yeah,
EPA
we
method.
use EPA method
You're gonna report
1633,
that.
just, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead, Chris.
So, this is Chris talking. So when you say there's nothing, what do you mean?
No, I'm just saying this is a desktop exercise. I'm not saying that there's nothing. I'm just saying that maybe we move something forward. In the end, there was no PFAS in that building. That's all I'm saying. Does that answer you?
Yeah, I was just curious what you meant. I didn't know if you meant there probably wasn't anything. You could already make that from your.
Oh, no,
It wasn't.
sorry. No, that's not what I'm trying to infer.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. To the Environmental Restoration Program update, Robert.
Okay, it's me.
What?
Next slide. All right, okay. All right, so site 2. Just to give you a heads up on that, we have the city and the mayor have signed off on the AUL. We have drafted our permanent solution statement that's going to be submitted soon, and we have a lease amendment that's signed with the city, and it's on I guess, as of what Megan told me today, it's on its way to my desk, so it should be in next week. We'll get that moving along. with the real property folks. So we just have the RI investigation. I think that was supposed to be, we have the final, so that's right. That's final class upcoming, and the start of the field sampling is pending on access agreements. I'm gonna say that it's taken a lot of time, and Amanda is gonna speak to that in more detail, but we're getting close. We signed off on one today with the airport. The mayor signed that just a few hours ago, so that's gonna allow us to start moving forward in the field. And I think, at this point, I think we're gonna turn it over to Amanda. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. This is Amanda Martin with the Army Corps. So to present our updated calendar, you guys see this slide with the bubbles every RAB meeting. So we've updated it to reflect the current status. We are targeting mid Q4 of FY '25 to begin our field effort. We just finalized the plat. And
When is Q4 of FY '25 for those of us who deal with regular calendars?
Q4 of FY '25 is July, August, and September.
Thank
So
you.
we're looking at mid-August to start the field effort. But yeah, the fiscal year is 3 months shifted from the calendar year, which I remember Chris Brown made this graphic many years ago to try to illustrate that, but still a little bit twists everyone's brain up.
Never did tell us where January is, yeah.
Yeah, January would be Q2.
The Q2s at the top in the bluish purple are the, yeah.
Clarify that again, because you were talking. Because you were all talking.
Thank you, Gabby. The bluish purple at the top is like the regular calendar. Q1 is January to March, Q2 is, April, May, June, like that. That's the regular, like a normal calendar at the
Okay.
top. And then the fiscal year calendar is in the green.
Okay.
Either way, the start of the RI fieldwork you said is
Targeting mid-August.
Mid-August.
Now with the updates to the access agreements, which I'll talk about a little bit more on the next slide. So as Robert already mentioned, we unfortunately hit a few snags with our access agreements. The critical path was the airport agreement with the city of Westfield, and attorneys from the Guard and attorneys from the city took more time than we initially anticipated to come to agreement on the language for that access agreement. But we did get the good news earlier today that it has been signed by the mayor. So that was our green flag to, we can now schedule the start of the field activities. So Drew and I were speaking earlier, we believe we can target mid-August to start the first round of sampling, which will be the surface soil sampling at the 8 AOCs, 2 of which are on the airport property, which is what we're waiting on. We do have 4 or 5 other access agreements in progress with the city. We believe 4 of those 5 should be signed in the coming weeks. And 1 other that might take a little more time to work out. We are hoping that we can do some sampling in rights of way of roadways of the city, like that 10-foot offset, like from the edge of the road to the edge of the curb. That's kind of common practice in these sorts of investigations because it limits the number of private access agreements we need to get. But I guess it's come to our attention that the city has some concerns with that. So we're in the process of coordinating a meeting with them to figure out how we can resolve that issue and how we need to move those locations if we can't keep agreement with the city. And then there are also some private access agreements in progress. We have 5 of those. We have about 20 more in progress. The Corps' real estate has reached out to all of those property owners and we'll be sending someone to knock on their door and talk with them in person mid-August or if we haven't heard back from them. So that is the status of the access agreement. So a little bit disappointing that it's been taking so long, but good news that we have the critical path 1 as of today.
Amanda, downtown, what happens when we get to the end of your fiscal year? All those in progress, are you gonna still be able to continue them on, or do you have to wait for your budget to come through and the ones that are the next steps? How does that work?
So the contractor's contract is for 5 years.
Okay.
So they can continue working and then essentially the Air National Guard hires the Army Corps on a year-by-year basis because it's a single-year funded project. So basically each year we request a new budget for them to work on this project and they approve it or don't approve it. Hopefully approve it.
So in September, you dead in the water till the new budget comes through or the new contract comes through?
No, we are, there's no contract per se between the Air National Guard and the Army Corps. There could be a few weeks at the beginning of the fiscal year in October that the Corps might have to pause their work until we get the money from the Guard. But it's usually just a couple of weeks until the funding comes in and we can keep rolling.
And you can do this work in November, December, winter months, frozen ground and things like that?
Yeah, so Drew's going to speak a little bit more about the upcoming field schedule. Some of the sampling specifically targets certain seasons, for example, the surface water and sediment sampling. We do 2 rounds and we try to target the high flow and low flow conditions. So low flow would be fall and high flow would be spring with the snow melt. So in particular, we want to do that sampling at that time. Things like monitoring wells, we can kind of sample anytime there's a huge snowstorm. We might have to pause work for a few days. Obviously, safety of our team is top priority. But yeah, maybe I'll just say that and then let Drew speak to the schedule a little bit more. So that's kind of a status of the access agreements. Any questions on that before Drew talks about the field schedule?
Yeah, go ahead, Drew.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Drew Barton here with Patel. We're the contractor to one we go for the PFAS RI. So I just want to talk a little bit about project scope. Slide right here. I'm sorry, can you go back one to the scope? So this slide right here, Amanda just touched on the access agreements and permit compliance. Those are highlighted in green because they're in progress. Yellow highlights are what are we going to do next? What are we waiting for the access agreements for so we can start? And that is utility location. So before we break ground anywhere, we 811 call, and an internal also utility plans. So hire a contractor to go out there with some GPS or GPR to clear all the locations so we don't get any utilities. And then we'll do on-site surface soil sampling. That's really our first step. I'll talk about that. And the vertical aquifer sampling, which is our next step. I'll talk about that in subsequent slides. That's really the return we need to get it done first. We'll also install some new monitoring wells, but there are several steps here that we have to wait to get data from some initial sampling before we can move on. Like our subsurface soil sampling or our step out surface soil sampling. So I'm talking about that here in a few. So it's the other scope, and this is all outlined in the quality assurance project plans that we just finalized today. So to Amanda this morning, that you all, I think, had a chance to review my comment. So some of the other items are groundwater monitoring well installation, development, sampling, groundwater and surface soil elevation, surface water and sediment sampling, isometer installation, installing some bedrock wells, we'll do some geophysical logging in those wells. We'll survey all the locations, eventually put them on the map. We're doing a habitat assessment next spring, and throughout the entire process, we're going to be generating investigation of live waste, liquid solid. So I have to store that on site, profile it, and send it off there for disposal. And all the while, we'll be doing, when we're in the field, by summarizing our progress, collecting samples, other information to make on the class meeting information. Okay, next slide. So here's a little bit of the schedule we were just talking about. Obviously, all hinges on the access agreements, but we can essentially move forward with our surface soil sampling at this point. So we'll start first with the utility locating probably in mid to late August. And we'll do our surface soil sampling as well. We hope to do some vertical aquifer sampling, EAS, at that point as well. But that's some of the issues Amanda was talking about with the right of ways. So all of our locations are between the Turnpike and the Westfield River in city right of ways. So we got to get those squared away before we can install our locations there. So as I said before, some of those initial results, like our surface soil sampling, we don't fully delineate where our PFAS is spatially. We have to go out again for another round of surface soil sampling. Once that's delineated spatially, then we'll have to go deep to get our vertical information. So we're gonna have to wait to get some results back, interpret it internally before we can move to some more subsequent steps. Monitoring well installation, we're hoping to start that in August, and we have, again, have to wait on some data to come back, so that's gonna take a little bit longer, but we can do that work as a man noted in the winter, install those wells and collect some of those. So one of the things that Amanda noted, we are doing multiple rounds of groundwater and surface water and sediment sampling, so we can generally fall in the spring timeframe, so we can get different temporal conditions, low flow, high flow, so we understand that PFAS concentrations change over time. And then our habitat assessment, we talked to our ecologists, our biologists, we hope to do that in May of 2026. That's the best time to get that survey back. Okay, so I think I jumped ahead to the next slide already. So I think we're too forward at this point. Yeah, okay, so the next three slides, I think we've seen these all in subsequent presentations. But just wanted to, again, show you guys the 8 different AOCs that we'll be collecting surface soil sampling from. The AOC 8 areas, I believe the one we just kind of talked about earlier, that area, the dumping area, I think may have been. And as we mentioned in earlier RAB meetings, we did initially not have AOC 3 on the list. When we compared to some of those site investigation concentrations to the new PSLs, project screening units, we did CBCs, so we have that back. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so I mentioned the surface soil sampling. We're going to be collecting that surface soil samples from the 8 AOCs, and we're also doing a background investigation. We did touch on that, I believe, in the last RAB meeting as well, so we can help understand what our background levels of PFAS in soil that is not associated with the base. So this slide right here shows each of the 8 AOCs, the background samples, the number of samples that will be collected, and what questions we're trying to answer. We need to understand where these releases of PFAS occur and what concentrations are present in soil. And then I showed a figure right here. This is from the CLAP. There's one of these figures for each of the AOCs. I just showed an example here for AOC 1. It basically shows the AOC itself, which is the hazard area. The red symbols on here show where we have a ESI boring and where it exceeded the project screening limit. And all of the green circles on here show where we're going to be installing our initial phase 1 surface soil samples, collecting samples to try to eliminate the spatial extent of PFAS in this AOC. So there's a separate figure for each of these in the CLAP that shows where we're going to be. And as I mentioned, in addition to soil sampling, next slide, please, we're performing vertical aquifer sampling, which is essentially like a screening tool to understand where PFAS is present in groundwater. All these vertical aquifer samples are shown with a green diamond on this map, and they're all located in between the Turnpike and the Westfield River. So what we do is we use a direct push rig to push down. We collect a groundwater sample from just below the groundwater table, and then we'll collect between 3 more depths based on lithology to try to get a vertical profile of each of these locations to understand how PFAS is distributed in groundwater, both spatially and vertically. So we get that spatial and vertical distribution with the screening tool, look at those concentrations, and then we'll get an understanding of where we will install monitoring wells and how deep we will screen these, so we can effectively monitor the PFAS pollution in this area. And I think that was it. And again, the CLAP, you all have seen, has all of the details about all the sampling we're going to do, where we're going to sample from, and what depths, and the methods we're going to use. Okay. That's it.
Okay, questions on this part of the presentation, Chris?
What's your name again? Sorry. Drew. Okay, thank you so much. First, I'm gonna work backwards if that's okay. Sure. One is, can you define mythology for people here?
Before you start, can folks online hear the question?
Yeah, yes,
Let's
I
just
could.
speak up a little bit,
Yep.
because I know you're sitting not very far apart,
Yeah.
but I want to make sure people online can hear as well. So
Should I repeat the question?
yell toward the
I
microphone.
asked Drew to define mythology.
Lithology is basically what type of geologic materials are beneath the surface. Is it sand? Is it clay? Is it a loam material? Is it bedrock? And we generally kind of understand PFAS could preferentially be in one of those salts versus another, which is why when we collect representative samples of different lithologic units, to understand what PFAS may be.
Thank you. Next question was, it's been a little bit since I've read that 600-page document as it refers to everything. So with the soil sampling approach, you said that this would be kind of like an iterative process.
Yes.
How iterative? How many iterations would you do before you say, we've characterized this effectively, because what if you continue to expand outwards and you continue to see an increase or decrease? How do you decide whether to continue to iterate on your soil sampling?
Right, well, I'll kind of talk through this a little bit and let Amanda and Robert speak to it if they want to as well. But our goal is to identify where PSLs are exceeded. So our thought is to go out as far as it takes to get to understand where PSLs are remaining.
And PSLs, again, remember, we have an audience
Yes,
as well too, but,
project screening level.
okay, thank you.
And we're also going to take into account our backup concentrations as well. So does that, the background overall play in fact in where PSLs are going to be seen?
Yeah.
So our goal is to look at that first set of data first, and if we have it delineated, we want to do more surface soil samples, we can go down to get vertical samples. If it's not, we'll have to expand out again. And as far as the number of iterations, that's still up for debate, but ultimately, try to get out to identify where PSLs are mixed.
Okay, so your margin is for delineation is determining, like, once it dips below the PSL in the background, that's when you determine that you successfully delineated your site.
Yes.
Sorry, I know Chris had her hand raised, but last question I had, as a just a reminder again, I'm sorry. Where are you taking the background sample, and how are you getting a background sample?
Yeah, we selected 10 locations in various, I have to go back and look at the exact language we used. But we didn't want to have them in any areas that could be directly impacted by PFAS, meaning we didn't want an open field with fertilizers in this program have PFAS. So we selected them on the edges of fields, kind of under some canopies, where we impacted by fertilizers or pesticides. And we put them at just various locations around the base. I didn't have a figure right here, but
I
it is. in the
think
plan.
there was a figure in the
There's
last.
probably one in there.
Yeah, I know, I know. I think there's a figure in the April presentation. So
Yeah,
we,
Yes, yes, thanks for.
a lot of it is,
could you introduce yourself and speak so that people, I know you're sitting 4 feet from Chris, but I want to make sure people online can hear you too.
So a lot of there's 10 soil sample locations that identifies right now for background sampling, and they're all off base. And they're typically on private properties. So it's not, something that's been like developed, it's not like right away or something like that. But the samples for background will be collected in the same manner as those on site. So for surface samples, I think it's just gonna be hand auger with, cleaning thoroughly the tooling in between each of the depths. And I think it's 0 to 6 inches in that. You can save that, but, same basically as surface on site.
Thank you, those were all my questions.
Thanks, Chris.
Don't go far.
Yeah.
Kristen.
I have a question about the background as well. The places that have been selected, they have been especially selected to not be anywhere near a septic system, not be anywhere near the air deposition from certain factories in town, not to be anywhere near, the electroplating place or the place that does the lamination, right? I mean, we've really investigated all the other sources and not put it right next to one of those.
Yeah, Patel, SRS Patel, they, put the 10 locations that were selected on the same map that we have that identifies potential other sources. And so those are yellow dots that are in the data gap summary report that is attached to the WAP. So that figure has, these places might have also used PCAS. And so those locations are not located like on similar properties at all. They're pretty far away from those ones, basically.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Go ahead, Caprice.
I'm sorry, Caprice, Mass DEP, help me understand who actually approves the background concentration?
It's a statistical, this is Amanda Martin with the Corps. It's a statistical evaluation that's included in part of the RI report. So,
But is it EPA approved? Is it state approved? Like where, you said it's a statistical, but help me understand how that comes about.
well, the EPA is not involved in this project. It's not a Superfund site. So the Mass DEP will have opportunity to review in the RI report. But basically they treat the background sample set, like a population, and then the risk assessment can do like a population comparison between the background to what's on site to see if there's a statistical difference. I think, I don't want to go too far into the weeds since I'm not a risk assessor, but I think we determined we're not calculating background threshold values for this project. Yeah, we're not. So some projects will calculate like a set number called a background threshold value. But I don't think we're using that method for this project, but that is all detailed in the risk assessment appendix portion of the WAB.
Other questions? Ben?
Tom Keefe, Mass DEP, and we'll receive a copy of the QAP in August. Is that right? from the
It's actually final.
Quack's final, right?
Yeah, so it'll be, I just haven't had a chance to disseminate it yet, and I believe Robert will.
Focus on medium investigation. It's beginning in August. I'm sorry, this is my first RAB meeting. I confess my ignorance. I'm sorry.
We love it.
But that being said, the risk assessment piece, that was a final document already that was included in the attachment. Is that correct?
It wasn't.
We see something later on with the risk assessment.
The risk assessment work plan was an appendix to the QAP that was
That's right.
reviewed by Mass DEP as well.
Well, it was a final document.
No.
What's the work plan?
It's a work, yeah.
The work plan for the risk assessment.
The data gap memo, what was the final document, the risk assessment work
Yeah.
plan. So we
Yeah,
addressed.
this is Mike Colbert from the Corps. It's Appendix F to the UFP QAP, the risk assessment work plan, in case you're needed to know.
Thank you. Appendix F.
Yeah.
But that,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, it's my understanding, Appendix S was already finalized.
No, that was the data gap memo. The risk assessment work plan, we addressed comments from Mass DEP on. I think we got 4 comments from Mass DEP, and our risk assessor works with the SRS to tell risk assessors to address those comments. So, yeah, they were incorporated or addressed, yeah.
Other questions about the field work coming up? Any of the questions related to the next
The
steps?
SAP is finalized, yeah. Is it different than the draft that we received or the same?
It's only different in addressing the comments that we said we would address in the responses. And additionally, we had to add the AOC3 soil investigation back in because the screening levels decreased. And that also triggered the addition of the background soil sampling.
So is that up on the administrative record?
It will be.
It will be, not yet. So we just started signing the thing. It'll be finalized. It's put up there shortly. Now, yes. So the next couple of weeks, it should be on the AR.
Thank you.
Other questions on the environmental restoration project? Go ahead, Chris.
Maybe just because it seems like there's a lot of things coming down the pipeline for us, so it's cool for the RAB to see. Could we just like by the end of the meeting, maybe just come up with a list of all the things that were mentioned here that are just like, this will come this time, this will come in 2 weeks, just so we have a heads up. Just so we can be prepared. I work a lot, so it's hard to sometimes follow up with some of these things, so that'd be helpful just to have an outline of what we talked about today. And what we could be expecting in the next few weeks from our partners and them.
Okay. All right, next slide. Are there questions and comments from the public? Did you remember your questions that you had half an hour ago? If you had any, or anybody online, any?
I have some questions.
Okay, if you could just please introduce yourself.
My name is Jessica Britton. I've been pretty much a lifelong resident of Westfield, growing up here.
Great.
Here.
Welcome.
Hi. So when we talked about back with the survey, it was an optional survey and it wasn't statistically significantly powered. So we weren't looking for like, obviously a 95% confidence interval with a p-value under 0.05%. And you have mentioned that the survey follows a certain guidance through the EPA. And sometimes there can be 20 people if we're lucky, and rarely above 10% of the population, correct?
No, rarely. So the survey is done instead of, it used to be done as community interviews, under the original guidance on how to do these was, so you sat down with, so Emma would have sat down with people in the community and talked to them for 20 minutes and gotten responses to a set of questions. Now it's more frequently done through an online questionnaire, but it is not, and was never meant to be under the official, like the guidance about how you do these things, was never meant to be a statistically significant type of survey. It is qualitative to put your finger on the pulse of the community, and that's why you reach out to a cross section of the community. So you're talking to different types of people in the community. Emma, do you want to address that any more? You actually did this community involvement plan. I'm just speaking from the point of view of that I do community involvement plans.
I think, yep. Oh, sorry. Did someone say something else?
I just wanted to ask if you wanted to add anything to what I said.
I think that pretty much answers it, and that's, that's the guidelines we follow too when we develop the community involvement plans.
Yeah, so in terms of the numbers and the response rate you're trying to get, EPA guidance is that, and I'm sorry that it's EPA guidance, but that's the Department of Defense follows EPA guidance on how to do a community involvement plan. And the guidance is you're looking for a minimum of around 20. It's not a hard and fast, like thou shalt have 20
Right.
responses. It's not like that at all. That's a general guidance. And the bigger the site, the more complex the site, you hope to get more input.
Right.
And it all depends on how you get that information out there, people knowing about it and people wanting to participate. So I have had sites where we've had 100. I've had sites where I've written a community involvement plan based on like 7 responses.
Okay, so this was like a survey that was put out and mailed out to people, because I didn't.
It was
get
online.
anything. Okay, because I thought like some of the contacts that were mentioned were like school admin, businesses, mailers, and social media posts. Where was it on social media?
Emma, could you address that, please? How?
Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok. I also follow Mass Live News, Newsbreak. I didn't see anything about this survey.
Emma, could you address how
Yes.
the social media was done?
Yes, it was posted to the 104th Facebook page, 104th Fighter Wing Facebook page. It was posted twice in February.
Okay, because if you guys actually engage the Westfield community, we have a pretty big Westfield Community Forum on Facebook that has about 27,000 members. And everyone does seem to kind of chime in on different things. Sometimes it's about mayo. But I mean, there are other ways to effectively engage the community. Myself as a pharmaceutical rep, if I were to go into a doctor's office and show them a clinical study and say, this study had 13 participants, use my drug on your patients, they would laugh at me.
But
No,
again,
I know, I'm
that's
just telling
an
you.
entirely different
like,
type of thing.
I understand, but at the same time, if we're using this data to extrapolate information, we want it to be a serious, we want to seriously look at the information. It's almost like, why are we doing it if it's only 13 people? Because it's such a small sample. You can't accurately depict a population. Our population in Westfield is about 40,000 residents. 1% would be 400, 10% would be 4,000. And so if we wanted to get an actual extrapolation of the data, we would be looking at a larger pool than just 13 friends and family. Not saying that's where this data came from. I'm just saying that it could easily be friends and family if the community's not properly engaged.
Understood, thank you. And I think we'll make sure that your comments about how to engage the Westfield community on social media are then wrapped into the next time we do this community involvement.
Or even some type of mailer. I mean, I've lived in Westfield for most of my life.
Right, I think she said that only online, methods were part of their scope of work for doing this work.
Okay.
So,
And then in regards to like other outreach community areas, if they were to, look at like, school admin, businesses, stuff like that, I would encourage looking at some of like the local unions and stuff like that. I know with my dad being a carpenter, for many years, his actual union head would mention how there was a lot of bladder cancer in Westfield, how they thought that was very odd. And that was the same as when I called on urology. They had made that assumption as well, is that there's a lot of bladder cancer in Westfield. I wonder where that could be coming from.
okay, all right, thank you for your input, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming. Other questions and comments from the public, or in chat online, anybody? Yep, you can stand and introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Laura Vandenberg. I'm a professor of environmental health sciences at UMass Amherst. I'm trained as an endocrinologist and a developmental biologist. But my appointment is in the Department of Environmental Health Sciences at the School of Public Health and Health Sciences. My research explores how early life exposures to chemicals predispose individuals to diseases that manifest later in life. And my work has shown how low dose exposures can contribute to diseases like cancer, obesity, and infertility. My work also focuses on how traditional regulatory approaches have failed to protect the public from ubiquitous environmental pollutants like PFAS. And of particular relevance to Westfield, recent projects from my lab that we've published with students explore how groups that have a vested interest in decision-making use tactics to manipulate public knowledge and protect polluting industries and parties. For the past 6 years, I've run a summer research and science communication internship for UMass undergraduates. Each year, the students select a project to explore. This year, my students have connected with scientists that have studied PFAS, as well as members of RAB, the community group in Westfield focused on PFAS advocacy. Through their work, they created high-quality, evidence-based videos that are accessible to lay audiences to inform them about PFAS. They've also created 2 videos specifically about Westfield and RAB. I was a little surprised to be told that these materials were considered to be inappropriate to be shared here because of regulations of the RAB. And I encourage my collaborators in RAFT to share these materials widely. I encourage the membership of RAB to utilize the scientific expertise that's represented in my students' work. We can help you design a study to actually evaluate what your community members know, think about. I would be happy to offer my expertise to you to do that. We don't have to wait 2 years.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Other questions or comments? Okay. I think closing remarks, I think are next. This is contact information you all have. And we will get out, Tom's contact information for you as well, but you can contact Caprice in the meantime if you need to contact DEP. Websites, you have seen this before, and I think we're just moving on to closing remarks from our co-chairs. You can pick. I'm good. You're good? Kathy's like, she's good. He's like, oh, I stole my words.
I am really excited to finally see some dates and some field work that's going to be going on and working with the city. I am so excited by that. I can't wait to see that happen. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I can do nothing more than echo Kathleen's comments.
Okay. Let me ask you, only from my knowledge of working on other projects, would folks, as we get into field work, would you like to see some photos of when they're doing?
Be there. I'd like to see some data. I'd like to see some data in an electronic format that isn't a PDF that I have to enter all by myself that I have requested every single RAB meeting we've ever had.
I have heard that request before, and I think Robert has too. So.
And if not, get used to it, because you'll.
Okay, and I think with that, we are ready to adjourn. Okay, so with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it. Hopefully, everybody signed in. If and I can add you to the email list for future RAB meetings if you are not already on that. And thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Thank you.